Josh Heupel absolutely should not run up the score if he's given the opportunity. Caleb, let's set aside the question of will he if he's given the opportunity, because you and I agree that yes, he will, right?
Oh, absolutely. He absolutely will.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, he's at a point in the program where he needs to put his personal feelings aside. And he needs to just go out there and win football games for two reasons. More exposure to injury, number one. Number two, look what happened when Missouri threw out a whole new defense in 2023, Caleb. They beat Tennessee because Tennessee ran up the score on them the year before. So should he? Absolutely not. Will he? Yes. Is it kind of fun? Yeah, I'll give you that too. But he absolutely should not, Caleb, and I defy you to convince me otherwise.
You are so wrong on this for 18,748 reasons. Okay, let's get the Missouri point out the window for a minute. Yes, they threw a new defense at him, but Tennessee didn't have a quarterback who was a fit for the offense. They also, do you remember how injured they were in that game, Dave? I mean, they didn't have their go-to receiver in Brew McCoy. Dante Thornton got hurt on the first drive, who they had made their go-to receiver. They kept moving the ball in midfield, and then freak plays happened, like a Jalen Wright fumble. Was it Jalen Wright? It may have been somebody else. There were like a series of things that happened. A bad snap that killed a drive. There were just random things that happened. That game could have been a lot closer.
You know, the one you did mention, too, that I think we underrated, but you know it happened, was Keenan Pili. I mean, this defense looks a lot more organized now with Keenan Pili in there. I think that could be worth a game. I think he's that good of a player.
Oh, I totally agree. Take away a fumble, take away a bad snap, put Keenan Pili out there, and Tennessee's probably beating Missouri 24-21 last year on the road. And so that's with Eli Drinkwitz throwing a whole new thing in and going, "We stand on business, Josh." Okay, so I didn't do the whole thing. You do that one better.
Stand on business, Josh. That's how he said it. He said it like really weird.
Yeah, so that's point number one.
Okay, but I think that's immature and stupid too.
Point number two, Tennessee isn't going to play Oklahoma on a yearly basis. They're not.
You don't think Venables is going to get them to the SEC championship game?
This year? No. And
no,
two,
I meant next year.
And two, as I've told you guys 1,000 times, I would never try to win the SEC championship game. I would throw it every single year. I am never trying to win that title game with this college football playoff format. So
that's pure silliness. But anyway.
Yeah. And so that's number two. Wait, number three. I mean, even more importantly.
Okay.
The next time Tennessee plays Oklahoma, I'm willing to bet Brent Venables is not there. So the other coach wouldn't have anything to be angry about. So run it up. Let everybody know they should have hired you.
May I ask an honest question that, hey, if you know on the message board, I'm just curious because I get paid for a living by some fantastic sponsors and advertisers, and we want you to support them all because I bet them they're legit. They're incredible. Especially want to thank City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters. Why spend thousands of dollars on a new unit? You might just need a part, or you might just need some coolant, so you can save thousands of dollars. But can I ask you honestly, I don't know how the rotation works with who Tennessee plays in 2025 and down the line. We used to know who they played, and now I got to be honest, Caleb, I don't know how it works. Do you? Do we know?
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna keep the rivals and then alternate everybody else. They don't have a schedule beyond this year. They have mismanaged grossly.
Wouldn't you think Oklahoma would come to Knoxville next year?
No, as a matter of fact, I think the Vols 2025 SEC schedule is out. I'm pulling it out now, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Let me pull it. I could be dead wrong.
Okay, totally wrong. I mean, it's so goofy to include Oklahoma and Texas in this.
Oh wait, no, you're right. Oklahoma is next year. Okay, so they have Oklahoma. Oklahoma does go to Knoxville next year, but Oklahoma goes to Knoxville next year. Who cares? Run it up. See, Tennessee had to go to Missouri last year. And Oklahoma goes to Knoxville in November next year. What I'm looking at on the schedule as of right now, assuming nothing changes, Tennessee – well, no, there is no date yet. I take that back. But Tennessee is going to play Oklahoma in Knoxville. Run it up. Run it up. Run it up. That Missouri thing was a fluke. Yes, Eli Drinkwitz shifted the whole offense. Tennessee was playing at Missouri. They had one of their best teams in history. Tennessee was banged up, severely injured. and they didn't have a quarterback that was a fit for the offense. None of those things will be applying next year, and Tennessee was on the road. None of those things will apply when Tennessee plays Oklahoma next year. By the time they're playing Oklahoma next year, Brent Venables will be on the hot seat anyway, so Oklahoma will be quitting on the team. Run it up. And by the way, I say this without trying to attack Brent Venables. Brent Venables has shown Josh Heupel more respect than anybody else involved with Oklahoma, given what happened.
Then why would you run it up?
Because it ain't about Brent Venables. It's about Oklahoma. Run it up.
Best revenge is living well, Caleb. Not to mention, what about sportsmanship? I mean, I know you, younger generation, you're like, run it up. It's fun. And I've always been of the mindset that it's the other team's responsibility to stop you. Now, that even goes back in the 80s and 90s, okay? When I was a kid, I thought, well, it's your fault if you can't stop them. So I'm on the same page, but I can tell you there are a lot of people, mostly older people, that say that donate and say, man, that's that nice score there, and that onside kick last week, that was it's kind of shady. Who we got here? You got a shyster or got a really great coach with integrity? Doesn't it chip away at your image?
You can debate last week it might. You can debate the last week one. You say my generation. Let me take you back 39 years ago. All right, let me take you back 39 years ago.
Wait a second. I got something outside the studio. Get off my lawn.
When the oldest millennial was 5 years old, okay, 39 years ago, there was a coach named Jimmy Johnson. He was coaching at Miami.
No.
And Miami played Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had a head coach named Jerry Faust, who was a longtime high school coach, was trying his way in the college level, and it wasn't working. But Dave, I think even you would agree, Jerry Faust is one of the classiest people to ever coach football, even though it didn't work out at Notre Dame.
Yes.
And it was his last game because he decided it didn't work out, so he was going to retire. And in his very last game, Miami decides, let's just run it up. Let me call a fake punt on 4th and 11 when I'm up about 40 in the fourth quarter. And just blows him out. And what did Miami say at the end? It wasn't about Jerry Faust. It was about Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame had been doing that to opponents for 40 years, and people were mad that it was done to Notre Dame. This ain't about Brent Venables. Brent Venables, I love you. I think you're a good guy. You do seem like a good guy, Brent. You seem like a decent guy.
Yes.
You have spoken very highly of Josh Heupel. This ain't about you. Josh Heupel's got some bones to pick. He's got some scores to settle. And you know what, Dave? I said this to you the other week. The way you should live your life is not the way you should. People are like, football is like life, and it's a great lesson in life. No, it's not. The way you live your life is not the way you should approach sports. You should live your life trying to better everyone around you, trying to uplift people for your own self-fulfillment, and hoping for the best for everyone, and hoping what's best for you and society and your community as a whole. When you're playing a sport, that's not your focus. Your focus is to rip the heart out of the competition. Okay, your job is to rip the heart out of the other side. So it's totally different. It's why Michael Jordan's the best player of all time, because Michael Jordan, there was a great comparison I heard one time, Dave, of Michael Jordan versus Muhammad Ali, where Muhammad Ali would try to knock you off your game. Michael Jordan didn't want to knock you off your game. He wanted you at your best when he faced you. So then when he beat you, you knew there was nothing you could ever do. He wanted your soul snatched out of you. And Josh Heupel should want to snatch the soul away from every single Oklahoma fan. Even if he's wrong, he should think that he is bigger than Oklahoma.
Okay, let me ask you this. And it's really simple. Who's the classiest coach now in college football?
The classiest coach in college football?
I mean, it's I've been thinking about the whole time you've been talking. I've been listening, but it's kind of hard to come up with one.
Sam Pittman's actually a pretty classy guy. Look at where that gets him.
Okay. Look where that gets him. Okay. Put it on the poll question. You would like for Josh Heupel to be Jimmy Johnson Brash or Sam Pittman style. I want to specifically use those two guys, if you don't mind. So put that on the poll questions. Portions of the show are brought to you by, because I'm going to tell you who it is. Portions of the program are brought to you by our great friends at the Hemp House. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10%. HOOK for 10%. So let's not talk about the X's and O's. Let's not talk about the success. Let's just talk in a perfect world. If you're building a perfect coach, would you rather him be brash like Jimmy Johnson, or who you may not remember, Caleb, but before the 92 NFC Championship game, the Friday before they played at San Francisco, he was interviewed, and it sounds very much like a Spurrier setup interview back at the time. And they asked him, so what do you think about the game? He gave an exclusive interview to the Dallas paper, maybe in Skip Bayless. And he said, oh, we'll win the game. Just flat out called it. And they were like 10-point underdogs. I mean, in retrospect, you think, of course, Dallas could win that game. But you didn't think so at the time. They had Jerry Rice, and all these guys. And you thought that they were definitely going to go to San Francisco and lose. So which would you rather have, Tennessee fans, or college football fans that are out there in our message board? Vote on the poll question now. But Caleb, which would you prefer your coach to be?
See, I'm so much like just win, baby. I don't really care. But like if it's between the two, it's Jimmy Johnson. Largely because I think Jimmy Johnson is brash, but he's brash in a way that connects with players. And, I want to bring a little bit of a cultural background to this and why I've always liked Jimmy Johnson. And Dave, just bear with me real quick on why I think he was so successful at Miami. Jimmy Johnson was raised an old white redneck from Arkansas, right?
Yes.
And connected with urban inner city black kids better than any coach you could think of. And I think the reason was Jimmy Johnson was the first. And we've seen a lot of coaches do it since, but this is, in a post-racial America in the 1980s was one of the first coaches to realize, me as this poor redneck from Arkansas, I got more in common with these inner city kids who also grew up with nothing. We got more in common with each other than we have different than we do with other people at the top and, than a bunch of rich people. And I think he realized that, and I think they connected, and I think he developed a rapport of it's us against the world together. I think Jimmy Johnson was one of the first really to cash in on that concept that many coaches have.
The other one that did it, the other one that was very similar, but he wasn't half the coach, was Barry Switzer.
He was. You're right. He was. He connected with players,
which
like
I'd never thought about before. But he wrote a story about his dad was a bootlegger or a book. He goes, I think the name of the book is My Dad's a Bootlegger. Mac Brown probably would have been a better selection than Sam Pittman.